and welcome to Good Grief, the podcast dedicated to demystifying and destigmatizing grief with compassion and humor. I'm Nikki. I'm an end-of-life doula and a grief coach in Columbus, Ohio. And today I am going to share with you my lovely conversation with Miss Tara Hayes of Terrified Publishing. Tara is an author and a publisher, and her books are all about her experience with anxiety. And with her business at Terrified, she helps other women become the self-published authors they always dreamed they would be. We had a great conversation. I won't say much more. We'll let you get right into it. But we are going to be talking a lot about Tara's and my journey through anxiety, day to day, past, present, and future, I guess. Anyway. Before we get into that, just another quick reminder that you can find me over at patreon.com/NikkiTheDeathDoula. Yes, I'm always asking you for money. I'm gotta stop being shy about it. If you come over to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month, you can support me. And with these funds, I provide pro bono work to those who cannot afford my services. And with your membership, you'll get grief affirmations in your email once a week. I started doing Friday funnies, so you get something funny on Friday. At higher tiers, you get early access to my podcast. You can watch the video of Tara and I talking today, and the videos of some of my other guests, as well as Q&As and other bonus content as my little brain comes up with it. So, all right. And also, briefly, I have been really bad about mentioning the podcast collective of which I'm a member. And that's, part of being this membership, not just because I'm a member, but because I really love all the other amazing people in this podcast collective. And I love what they do. And we're just a fun group of people. So I am a member of the Feminist Podcast Collective. And we have a lot of other amazing podcasts in this collective. In fact, here's one of them right now.
Hi there, it's Valerie Friedlander, life business alignment coach, sociologist, mom, and host of the Unlimited podcast, where we talk individual empowerment with social systems awareness. If you are trying to release learned limitations and live a more present, joyful, and intentional life, this podcast is for you. Twice a month, I share insights and interviews to help you reach for the stars while keeping your feet on the ground. Join me and let's unlock a life that's as badass as you are.
And if that's not enough, you can go back through Miss Valerie's podcast and find an episode with me. I was on her podcast. It was a great time. We had a lovely conversation, but you are not here for that. You are here to hear. You are here to hear. I do this all the time. Anyway, you are here to listen to my amazing conversation with Miss Tara Hayes. So without further ado, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and hit record. Yeah, like I said, if at any point something happens and you're not comfortable with it, just stop me. We can we go back or whatever. Okay.
Okay. And one last thing. Can you hear my niece yelling in the background? My niece is crying.
Oh,
okay.
No, I can't.
Okay. All right. As long as you can't hear. Okay.
Oh. All right. I feel her pain.
No, it's okay. Her mother's out there, so she's
okay. Okay, good. Awesome. All right. Well, we're already recording. So, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Awesome.
Hopefully.
All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. I'm so excited to introduce a special guest I have with me today, Miss Tara Hayes. Tara, hi. Thank you so much for being on my show. I'm going to give you just a second. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to my listeners? Tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Sure. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you for inviting me to interview with you. My name is Tara. I am from New Jersey, and I'm an author and a publisher, and my books are about my experience with anxiety. And the name of my publishing company is called Terrified Publishing. It's named after me, not for you guys to be scared, but to be empowered. But if you are scared, you can take it that way too. But my goal is to help female business owners become self-published authors. So we do the full process, everything but write the book, but we help you get your book published and out into the world.
Awesome. That's great. And I love your title of your company because it's
Thank you.
Terrified. And
yeah.
I agree. It's terrifying to put yourself out there.
Right.
So, okay. So as you said, you have dealt with anxiety in the past, and that's kind of what the, subject of your book and your company and everything has all been about. Has anxiety, how long has that been a part of your life? As far back as you remember? Is this a more recent thing?
That's a great question. Anxiety has been a part of my life, as far as I can remember. I can remember my first experience with it when I was about 9 years old, and I didn't know exactly what it was. It was like situational then. It was like I would feel nervous and like I had a fear of heights. So when I was on like a high balcony or something, I would feel it, and then I didn't know what it was. And then like when I got out of that situation, it was I was fine. So. I didn't know it was anxiety at the time, but that's had to have been what it was. And then it's developed into, other things throughout my life. I've developed just about any kind of fear you can imagine,
Mhm.
social anxiety, health anxiety, somebody said PTSD. So it's manifested in many ways in my life. So it's been here with me and I've just learned how to not be so afraid of it and kind of turn it into like a friend that'll always be there.
Yeah. I've heard of some people in my own life that give names to their, depression, mental illness, whatever it might be. And sorry, my cat really, really wants to be
No,
in.
you're fine.
Uh, anyway, they've given names to it and they call it she or him or whatever. That's not something I've ever been to. You don't have a name for your anxiety, do you?
I do. She's called Scary Terry. So
Scary Terry. I love that. That makes so much sense.
yeah,
Awesome.
that's her name, yeah.
All right. I mean, I have my evil twin when I'm in a really bad mood, but the evil Nikki is out. So yeah, and it's interesting. Like I feel like my first like forays with anxiety were probably about the same time as you. I was very young, but I didn't know what it was, and I don't think my parents knew what it was. I don't think anybody knew what it was or how to deal with it or what to do. And that was it was back in the 80s too, where I feel like a lot of the things that we address now, we didn't even know existed at the time, or at least we didn't have a
Right,
name for it.
right.
And yeah, with that, like obviously depression has come into play too with me. It feels
Hmm.
like once one starts, they all kind of start like
Exactly.
sneaking in together. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, has I'm sorry, my cat really wants to be in the
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I'm gonna have to hold him for a minute. Anyway,
Okay,
so
that's fine.
for those of you listening at home, I'm holding a big orange cat while we're doing no, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, we were talking about all the mental illnesses coming into play. Have you ever had I'll preface this by experience I have. A lot of times when I have really bad days of anxiety or when I have a panic attack, especially if I'm around other people,
Hmm.
after that I start feeling guilty and, quote unquote weird. So then I
Hmm.
end up with feeling just like really bad depression and I have what I call my post-anxiety grief day. Do you ever experience something like that?
Um, I don't think I've ever had like post-anxiety grief. Um, I've had like around other people where I would internalize my anxiety. So I could be having a full-on conversation with someone and they not know that I'm having a panic attack. So I've been able to internalize my mind that way, but I can kind of get what you mean about the post-anxiety grief, but mine is a bit different. So for example, maybe I did like a speaking engagement or I spoke with someone and I analyzed what I said. Oh, why did I say that or this or I could have did something differently. So that's the kind of post anxiety grief I've had.
Yeah. Oh God, I break down every social interaction for about a day afterwards. And I often feel like I'm irritating my husband because we'll leave someplace and I just can't stop talking because my anxiety is on overdrive. And I feel like
Hmm.
my brain and my psyche just kind of like mask it or tamp it down and hide it so I can get through what I'm getting through. But the minute I get out, it's just like whoosh,
Hmm.
you know?
Right. Right.
So what are some of your favorite coping mechanisms? Like what helps ground you to get back, into a calmer state of mind?
What helps ground me to get in a calmer state, sometimes um I just speak to the anxiety. Like, for example, I have anxiety on highways sometimes when it's like I could just see like the road never ending. I'm like, oh, this road's never ending. And I know it's kind of weird. So
No, not weird at all.
yeah, yeah. So I have that, and I'm like, I kind of ask for more of it. Oh, you're here right now, so all right, come on. Give me what your best. Give me your best.
Oh,
And
nice.
then it doesn't usually escalate to anything else. And then I start feeling it a little bit more again, and I ask for it again. Like, okay, give me some more. And then that helps. And then that's not my technique. I learned it from a book. I think it was the Panic Away book by author
Okay.
Barry McDonough. but that helps. And then other times when I'm feeling really anxious, I like to go for a walk. When I can't settle down, I like to go for a walk. And then I've been recently practicing 5 minutes of silence where I just sit at my computer and I close my eyes, the lights are off, and I just like let whatever thoughts come. And I might be thinking about, oh, I have to make this email, but then I just focus back, or I just let them come. Like I let the thoughts come and I try and focus back to just, silence, So I've been trying that and that's been working too.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love the idea of give me more. Like
Hmm.
it's so weird because I know most of us, like our gut reaction is make the stop instead of
Right,
make it worse. But
right,
I think that's a really clever technique of like recognizing that your fears might be irrational.
right.
Um,
Exactly.
if that's not too crude a way to put it, but I know a lot of the anxieties I have are completely irrational. They're not,
Yeah.
you know, I love that concept. I've never thought of trying that before.
Yeah, you should because when I ask for more, it doesn't really go anywhere. It's like,
Right.
you realize you're busting the fear because nothing else happens. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So you've, struggled with this since you were young. What being an entrepreneur myself and owning my own business, this has to have been a really difficult undertaking for you, being an anxious person to try because there's a lot of networking involved. There's a lot of putting yourself out
right,
in the world. So tell us a little bit
right.
about what that's been like for you.
Yeah, so when I started this entrepreneurial journey in 2019 is when I published my first book. And then honestly, it took me what a couple months to even tell anyone that I wrote a book. Like I was in like a community where everyone understood, like the Kindle cash flow community. Oh, we're all authors here. But outside of that community, I didn't tell anyone because I'm this quiet introvert, and now all of a sudden I'm going to be writing a book, and I was like,
Yeah.
so yeah, so it took me 3 months, and I finally, told people, and they were like, oh, we're proud of you, congratulations and everything. Um, but like the continuous putting myself out there, and it has been a struggle. I guess I started with doing some interviews, like some podcasts, and that got me out of my shell a bit. And then, what was it? Where was I going? That got me out of my shell doing the podcast interviews, but it's always a continuous getting yourself out of your comfort zone, like over and over and over. It's like
Yes.
a never ending thing. And then the networking didn't come until about what, December of 2022? Because at first, when I first began, I was just posting on social media and I was like, oh, people follow me and I don't have to talk to anybody, but but that wasn't as effective. I was like,
Yeah.
I have to talk to people. I have to network. And my business partner told me this a long time ago. You're going to end up having to talk to people. And I was like, But then I
Do I
finally,
though?
right, right. And then I finally did start talking to people. At first, it was nerve-wracking, like meeting new people, and having to spend, like, especially on Alignable, you have to spend 7 minutes in a room with someone that you don't know, like during the Smart Connects. And it's
Ooh.
like, oh my God, what do I talk about with these people? But it gets easier, and the more I network, I've actually grown to like it somewhat.
Yeah. 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 Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
I honestly like had you told me even just 5 years ago that I'd be networking like all the time and going to
Hmm.
networking meetings, I would have laughed at you. I would have said,
Me too.
"Wow." And like you, I love it now.
Hmm.
I think especially for people like us, it's a matter of finding the right networking group too, right?
Right,
Because
right,
I've absolutely been to some virtual or in-person ones that are a little aggressive.
right, right,
It's my brain's going too much and I can't focus and I have a terrible time. So, but the
right.
more relaxed ones, especially like you said in Alignable, you have to be in a room with somebody for 7 minutes. And
Hmm.
I've been in some like speed networking where you have five. And even that
Hmm.
a few years ago was like, can I fill that? It's really 2.5 because they got to talk to or whatever. But once
Right,
once I started going like this isn't that hard at all. And it's nice to get to
right.
know other people.
Exactly. But I've had some awkward ones though, but I've made it through, but it's like most of them I had a good experience, but it's like, what do I talk about for 7 minutes, like you said,
Mhm.
but and sometimes the talking stopped and I was just kind of twiddling my thumbs and like just couldn't wait for the time to end.
Yeah. Yeah, that was so interesting that you said that it was like what, 3 months before you told anybody you even published a book.
Right.
I know so many people that publish books and I love all of them, and I'm included. Like that's immediately like I published a book like the day it's out, and that's all they talk about for like 6 months. And like you have to though. Like if you want to sell
Right.
it, you got to talk about it.
Exactly. And that was my mistake. It was like, you have to talk about it, but then I had a fear like, oh, people are tired of me. They're tired of hearing about the same book, They're like, oh, when's the next book? Like we
Yeah.
don't want to hear about this anymore. But that was in my head. It wasn't, no one else said, nobody ever commented like, stop talking about this book. It was in my head.
Right. Yeah, and I do that same thing, especially when I first started this business because I was posting a lot of stuff on my personal social feeds. I was like, and I'm a death doula. Like my friends are probably like, I do not want to hear about your death crap. But I never,
Right.
because it's if somebody reads something and they don't like it, you just scroll past it, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
So you don't know if people aren't really liking it. But yeah, nobody was like, shut up. It was all in my head.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
and it's an interesting concept because a lot of anxiety, just from professionals I've spoken with, therapists I've had in the past, are like the things that you are anxious about, nobody else is thinking about,
Right.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like I started, I cut down my wardrobe. I tried like this minimalist wardrobe where I have like 3 shirts and I just recycle them with 2 pairs of pants. And for the longest time, I was like, oh my God, people are going to notice and they're going to be like,
Hmm.
oh, Nikki is so poor, she can't afford clothes or something. And like
Hmm.
making fun of me, but nobody even noticed. Because
Right.
how often do you pay attention to what other people wear? You know?
I don't, I don't unless it's Kelly Ripa on on live. I said she wore that already, but like she's on TV.
Right? Well, it
Yeah,
seems like we put celebrities on a different tier with that,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
silly, but I know. I notice it too.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so tell us a little bit about your books.
So the book is called Panic to Picnic: How to Find Your Own Personal Path to Peace of Mind. That's the one that I promote the most, and it's basically my story from adolescence to ch childhood, adolescence to adulthood, and basically navigating through my anxieties. And I was on medication for 15 years, prescription medication, and I was told, "Oh, don't you ever get off of that because you have too many episodes." So, yeah. So this journey has taught me that I can, get off naturally. I can begin manage my anxiety naturally, and I share that in the book and the 15 strategies that I use to begin managing my anxiety naturally. Because I know that there's a time and a place for medicine, and I just thought that there was a way that I could do it without the medication. And what got me off to was like a side effect. It was long-term use of sertraline is how I developed microscopic colitis. And when I went to the psychiatrist, I said, yeah, I said, I got microscopic colitis. I don't know how I got it. I said, I think it's from sertraline. So did you contact the maker of the drug? Said, no, I didn't. But she didn't really like own it or say, oh, that could have been a possibility. So I was like, all right, I'm done with this. I can't take something knowing that it's messing something up in my body. So that's when
Yeah.
it wasn't easy at all. Like I still had a ton of anxiety, but I did figure it out, that there's supplements out there, there's other ways of daily exercise, but it just wasn't for me anymore. And then I had my dad, who was a pharmacist too, said, oh, maybe you better stay on that medicine. So I had the psychiatrist, my dad, everybody saying, oh, stay on. And then I did prove to myself that I could manage without it. My dad was like, well, you proved to yourself that you can manage. So he finally, saw that I could do it, on my own, with the help of, talk therapy and the
Yeah.
supplements. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up too, because there's, I know plenty of people that take medications for anxiety or for other mental illness. And I agree, there's an absolutely time and a place in some people that need it and some people that may not. And I'm much like you. I had the worst side effects. I was on quite the cocktail when I was in college. And there was one in particular that nobody told me that it would give you it's not tardive dyskinesia, the one you see on TV all the time now. It's something else, but it gave me like I have muscle spasms.
Hmm.
And it's worse when I try to sleep, so I don't sleep
Hmm.
great. And nobody
Right.
told me that was a side effect or that, that it would not only was it a side effect, but it's permanent. I have been off this
Hmm.
medication for 25 years and I still have muscle spasms because of it.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not trying to poo-poo medication because sometimes
Hmm.
it's more the side effects are less an issue than the presenting illness, but I just appreciate that you brought that up.
Thank you. Thank you. I have muscle twitching too. I don't know if that was from that or not. But yeah, and it's about mindset too. Like when I was going through my own anxiety, I didn't realize I could change my mind. Like I just thought that, oh, I'm a victim to it and there's nothing I do about it. But I started looking at it from a different perspective. Like I said, like, asking for more of it. No
Yeah.
therapist has ever told me that. So um, and I just began to, like, I guess, kind of accept and embrace it instead of seeing it as a flaw. It's like
Yeah.
empowerment. And I think that's where you get to like your healing journey with anxiety, when you realize you can change your perspective on it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. So, how did your friends and family react to your book? Did they know about your anxiety, or was this like a, hey, by the way, all this time I've been suffering?
My close family knew I had anxiety. Like my dad knew I had it, and my mom knew, but she didn't know what to do with it. Like you said, your family didn't know how to deal with it. Like my mom had no idea how to deal with it. And I have a twin sister too, and she has anxiety too, but I think I had mine first. But yeah, I think most people knew I had anxiety, but then when I wrote the book, like I shared with some people, they're like, oh, some friends, oh, some people congratulated me. And then and when you're an entrepreneur, like I don't know if you relate to this or not, but sometimes you don't have your friends and your family's full support. It's like I had the support in the beginning, but then it's like not as much really. It's like, oh, they kind of forget you if you don't keep it in the forefront of their mind. And I didn't want to bother and burden my family and friends. Hey, go buy my book. If they got it when it first released, they got it. If not, then they didn't get it. But the ones that did get it, they were supportive. So
That's awesome. Well, that's good. I'm glad that people were supporting you and
yeah,
through your entrepreneurship as well as your book, because that
yeah.
is so, so, so super important.
Yeah, yeah. I think I have more online friends now though than in prison.
I think we all do after COVID, man. It's just telling you,
Right,
I've met so many great friends just through networking too. But since everything's virtual now, we can meet. It's a bit of a blessing in disguise because we can meet people from other parts of the world we wouldn't meet normally,
right, exactly.
you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So with that then, since a lot of it, like you and I are talking over Zoom right now, and we do a lot of things over Zoom, does does the interaction with people via like virtual situations like this differ for you than in person?
I would say definitely yes. Because when I'm virtual and like I know I'm going to meet someone for a certain thing, like I know that I'm going to meet you for a podcast, so I know I have to talk. But if it's like somebody random in a grocery store, then I have the RBF. I don't say anything. It's like I don't like I'm like a completely different person. It's like unless I know you, like I'll say hi to you, but that's one thing. Like still, that's still a part of me that's an introvert. Like I don't walk up to people and say, "Hey, how are you doing?" It's
Yeah.
like a completely different situation. It's like I mean, not that I'm not friendly. It's just I don't have a reason to speak to anyone. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and just in case anybody didn't catch that at home, she mentioned RBF, which I absolutely stands for resting bitch face.
Yeah.
Just in case anybody's not familiar with it, but I've been called out on that too. It's like, are you okay? You look pissed, and I'm like, no, I guess that's just my face.
Right.
Oh well. Yeah, I find have found it so much easier to communicate with people or to, interact on virtual environments because you have that it's not anonymous because if your camera's on, they can see your face, they can hear your voice.
Right.
There's still that separation.
Right.
And
Hmm.
that knowledge of just all I have to do is click one button and they are out of my life.
Right.
You can't
Right.
click a button in public
Right. Exactly.
when
Like
you're
they're
talking to another person. So
right. Yeah.
absolutely. So, where do you, I'm not going to say where do you see yourself in 5 years? That was a dumb question, Nikki. How do you envision writing another book? And do you plan on growing more as far as, authorship?
That's a great question. I do envision myself writing another book. My business partner says we have to get your third book going. We have to, but this time it won't be about anxiety. Well, it'll be a little bit of it, and it'll be like my journey so far as an entrepreneur, and helping people who want to self-publish because it seems easy, but it's not. Like there's more to it than just pressing a button on Amazon. Like,
Hmm.
what happens after you press that button? It's the marketing of the book. It's building your online presence. It's, everything else that comes along with it. So I'm going to share all that in my third book, and I want other people, other people to share their stories. I was talking to someone yesterday and she asked me like, what's your legacy? And at first I couldn't answer the question. I was like, what does she mean by that? But I said, well, I want other people with anxiety, introverts, to know that they can start a business and they can be successful. So she said, then you should be successful storytelling for introverts. So I said, okay. So I think I'm going to start using that now. So thank you. So that's what I want to do. I want, like, because it's hard for introverts to tell their story because we don't even talk to anybody. So how are you going to tell your story if you don't talk to anybody? So I want other introverts to share their story because, just because we don't talk as much doesn't mean we don't have like that story in there that can change and impact the world. So that's what I want to do.
Yay. And I love that you brought up legacy because that's as a death doula, that's what I'm working with my clients. And I always appreciate, you know, people like you finding that when you're young, and
Hmm.
I was middle-aged when I found my calling in life as an end of life worker. But these are things that we have as a legacy now. And I find so many people at end of life that didn't pursue that. Maybe they had
Right.
that in them the whole time, but they just never had the gumption to pursue it. Now there they are, and they never did it. So it always makes
Right.
me happy when people say, I'm following my dream. I've got this thing, and this is the legacy I want to leave to the world. So applause.
Right. Thank you. And I didn't have like a family that um that went after following their dreams. Like I would ask my mom like, "What's your dream?" And she said, "Oh, well, I achieved my dream. I got married, had children and got a house." But I'm like, there has to be something bigger than that. I mean, not that that's not a dream, but it has to be something to impact. That's what I thought. And then I think my dad, well, he passed away a couple years ago, but I think he wanted to be like a singer or something, but he never well he sung in a choir, but I mean I guess he kind of pursued it that way. But I think he wanted to be like some big like R&B singer. But he didn't, end up achieving that, and he wanted to own his own pharmacy, and then those are things he didn't achieve, but it's like, and now he's not here to achieve those things. So, I don't want to go like with my music inside of me. I like to say, I saw that quote somewhere, don't die with your music inside of you. But
Yeah. Oh, I
as
love that quote.
yeah, yeah. And as a kid, I probably would have because I was so scared and shy, that I wouldn't have went after pursued anything. But, this journey has taught me, that life is short and that you should go after what you want. Like it might not happen right away, but eventually it'll happen as long as you keep pursuing it and be consistent. So now I'm all for that, like following dreams
Yeah.
and achieving the things that you want to achieve.
Yes. Yay. Me too. Well, and there's always the adages of like, if you try and fail, it's better than not trying, or,
Right,
okay to fall on your face. And you will, especially in
right,
this type of stuff. Yeah, not everything's going to be a winner,
right,
Not
exactly.
everything I've done has
Yeah.
worked out, but I've at least made the effort.
Right,
Even
right.
if
Because if
I'm
you don't
not,
try, you never know.
yeah, even if I'm not like the world's, premier death doula, which I wouldn't want to be, but I at least got to do what I love. So, and that's amazing. So,
Right,
thank
right.
you.
You're
Um,
welcome.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Were you gonna say
Oh
something?
no, I was just saying you're welcome.
Oh. So okay, we're getting closer towards the end of the episode. Is there anything else you really wanted to share with my listeners? Any stories or anything?
Um, I don't think so. I mean, just that if there's anyone out there who's scared to tell their story and, needs help like getting their story out there, or that maybe they have a business idea and it's still an idea phase, I just encourage them to start, because you never know if you don't try. Like you're not going to get it right on the first try, but just keep going and then you'll eventually find your way. Like when I started, I was wanted to do an anxiety coaching. I thought that was the right thing, but I was like, because my book's about anxiety, but I was like, you know what? I think I'll do better with self-publishing, and that's when I switched over. So maybe it'll change again later, who knows? But as long as you start, just start and then, test and see what works, and if it doesn't work, just fix it and try something else.
Yeah. So if you were to meet yourself or somebody who is you from, 10, 15 years ago, what advice would you give her?
I would tell her to stop being scared. I mean, like back then I was really, really scared and just go after things that you want. Don't listen to yourself. Don't really listen to anyone else. And even if it feels like you're alone, just know you're not alone and that you'll eventually get to, where you want to get to and, just start, because like I went to school, for accounting because I thought, oh, that was the right thing to do, but it wasn't my passion. I went because, oh, it's a steady, steady job, steady paycheck. But I would told her back then to just, whatever she had a passion about, like do that passion. Don't worry about pursuing the straight lease or the straight line.
Yay. Yeah. I would tell myself the same dang thing. I waited much longer in life than you did to escape the grasp of corporate America, but I did finally. So,
Right. Yay.
all right. Well, since we're getting towards the end of the episode, I have a tradition on my podcast where I pull a random card from the death deck, which has conversation starter questions on them around death and dying. And
hmm
I will let you answer it, and then I will answer it. So I'm going to pull one at random. Let's take this one. Ooh, this is a good question. Do you trust doctors to give you all the information needed to make informed healthcare decisions? A, absolutely, they know best. B, mostly, I think doctors' personal beliefs can sometimes cloud their judgment. Or no, doctors are constantly screwing it up.
I'm stuck between B and C. Um, because like I seen like what my dad went through. Like he was in the hospital and it's a long story. Like, like so many things went wrong with his health and
Yeah.
and he got worse when he went to hospital. We sent him there to get well and then he ended up never coming out of the hospital. So yeah, I don't really, and I think doctors are good for advice, but it's like, it's my body, and I understand they advise, but
Mhm.
it's like almost in my mind, like, who can tell me better than what my own body says? And I know that we have to listen to what they say, but it's like I'm the one living with me, and it's my, it's my body. So, and you can take the advice. And of course, I wouldn't advise, like, if your doctor says, like, you have like some kind of terminal illness, I wouldn't advise against that. But right
Right.
now, while I'm young and healthy, I I think I make my own judgments. Like, for example, um, a couple years ago, a doctor said, "Oh, you have lupus, or you have because I had a rash on my face. You have lupus, or you got some kind of autoimmune disease." Had nothing. So it's like all the time you can't like I can't trust them anyway. So I
Yeah.
ended up not having anything. So
Well, good.
right, right.
Um, yeah, and as for me, I'm kind of right along there with you, and I think it really depends on the doctor, obviously, because doctors have that flaw of being humans,
hmm
and it's hard sometimes not to let your beliefs, come in on that. But as a female, I've been brushed off many times and not listened to by medical professionals, and
hmm
my husband has a deep distrust. His mom passed away rather unexpectedly, and it's his story to tell. I won't go into the details, but I think her death very easily could have been avoided had her
Right,
doctors talk to each other.
right,
And I've just seen so much of it failed, but I have seen so many people that have seen their lives saved. And
right.
I had like the best OBGYN until she retired. I'm still salty that she retired. How dare she? But I've never met a doctor as amazing as that woman. She was amazing at advocating for me when I was really sick and
hmm
called to check on me. Just amazing. She's,
hmm
but unfortunately, not all doctors are that great.
Right, and I agree with you. It depends on the doctor. Like
Yeah.
like I haven't had like an amazing doctor that I could think of. I haven't had like an amazing, but I'm glad you had that experience.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
I mean, my general practitioner he just retired too, because I'm getting to that age where all my doctors are retiring. He was pretty cool. I've been open about the fact that I had my tubes tied a few years ago, and my OB was the one. She didn't ask me to ask my husband. She just said, "Call this number, we'll get you on the schedule." And I had to go to my general practitioner to get cleared for surgery, and he did the whole "Have you talked to your husband?" And, are you sure you know this is permanent? I'm like, that's why I'm doing it. I'm well aware, sir. So I was a little salty about that, but whatever. All right, enough of that. So I'm going to give you a moment here to tell us about your book, your website, your business, all of that. Again, tell us where people can find you.
Okay. So my book is available on Amazon. It's called Panic to Picnic: How to Find Your Own Personal Path to Peace of Mind. And then my website is named after the business name is Terrified Publishing, and I'll spell it out. It's TARAFIEDPUBLISHING.com, Terrified Publishing. And if you want to come, just to visit the website, I have some free resources there to help you get started as a self-published author. And that's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And I'll have links to everything in the description. So if you didn't catch that, just look down below and click that. But Tara, thank you so much for taking time out of your day today to talk to me and my listeners all about your journey with anxiety and your books and everything.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, Nikki.
Awesome.
All right, another huge thank you to Tara Hayes for coming on my show and bravely talking all about her experience with anxiety and some other great things in there too. If you would like to find Tara, I'll have all of her links in the description, but you can find her website, Terrified Publishing, and that's TARAFIED, terrifiedpublishing.com. And I'll have that linked in the description as well as her LinkedIn page. Feel free to connect with her. She's an amazing person, and maybe she can help you reach your dream of being self-published. If you'd like to find me, you can find me at nikkithedeathdoula.com. You can also find me on Patreon. I mentioned that at the top of the show. Won't go over it again. You know what it is. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, all at Nikki the Death Doula. If you enjoyed this show, please leave me a rating or a review. It helps more people to find me, or better yet, tell a friend about my show. Tell them they gotta listen because it's amazing and I'm great. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. And remember, as always, your grief is yours, your feelings are valid, and grief doesn't always have to suck. Good Grief with Nikki the Death Doula is produced by Nikki Smith of Nikki the Death Doula LLC in Columbus, Ohio. Nikki the Death Doula LLC is for consulting, education, emotional support, and guidance, and is no way considered a funeral establishment or licensed mental health establishment. Scripts, editing, sound design, literally everything with this podcast is done solely by Nikki Smith of Nikki the Death Doula LLC, with the exception of the music. The music is Cheery Monday by Kevin MacLeod. Licensing information can be found at filmmusic.io.